Namaste. Welcome all of you. Good evening. So, welcome to the new episode of Creatively Live with Roopali Pankaj. And as you all know that this is a talk show where we listen to lots of experiences of different people and today's episode is going to be a little special. Why special? I'll tell you because this is going to be a concluding episode or the last actually in this series. The series where we could listen to various stories from young people, young, very creative and enthusiastic young people. One thing that was common in all of these young, enthusiastic, creative people was that they all were like design education had been part of their life and their creative journey. So either few of them were pursuing design programs, some of them had already finished their masters programs in design, both bachelor's and masters, and they have been working in design field or other fields like that, but the creative journey whatever they were taking. So let us welcome today, and we have a very special guest today. He is a comic book creator, and just let me welcome him. He should be here now joining us.
Here he is.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi,
How are you?
Avanish. I am great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So good to see
Yeah.
you after so many years.
Yes, it has been
Yes,
very long. I think the last time I saw you was in 2012.
12. Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Great to see you. Okay, great. Avnish, I would love to hear a few things about you. So please introduce yourself to our viewers, and we would love to listen to your creative journey till now.
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm a comic book artist and writer. I currently publish my own comic books online, so they're technically web comics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing right now. Otherwise, I
Right.
have done freelance work both as an illustrator and a graphic designer.
Great,
And
great.
yeah, I never really took to graphic design as much. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I mean, this was
Because
what I always wanted to do.
wanted,
So,
right, right,
yeah.
right, right. So I saw that clarity in you, right? You always wanted to be a comic book artist, right? So I would love to know, Avnish, that what is it? What got you that clarity from very young age, right? You had that clarity, or how was it? We would love to know that. Why I am asking you this question is also I would like to share that there are many young students, especially in 10th, 12th grade, starting from 8th grade onwards. They have
Yeah.
this question going on in their mind, or to be very honest, which is bombarded on their mind by people around them, that what's next, what are you going to and they don't seem to be very clear about it. They don't have that clarity. Many of them, some of them have, but you had that clarity. So we would love to know what is it, why you like, how come you got that clarity?
Yeah, I mean, I will get to it as I tell you about like how I went about it, but
Okay,
that
no problem.
clarity was also like, even though I knew what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
there was a point in time where I had gone a completely different way. I'll get to that.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
yeah,
That's
so I
interesting.
mean, so I mean, ever since I was a child, I mean, all children love cartoons. That's a
Hmm.
given. I was the
Right,
same,
right.
and and I still continue to love cartoons. I watch
Hmm.
them as
Right.
like, and I've been watching them
Yeah,
all my life.
yeah. Many of the
And
adults do actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not just, and so cartoons is where it started. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I was, along with my brother, we were always kind of into storytelling. We had these G.I. Joe action figures, and we
Yes.
had like
Yes.
a whole bunch of them. So
Wow.
we would spend hours together. My brother's around 4 years older than I am, 4.5 years older than I am.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So he was the one who introduced me to a lot of the things that I like the music I listened to, comics,
Okay.
and cartoons. A lot of
Right.
those things he introduced to me. So we used to spend hours just, setting up scenarios and playing out stories with GI Joes and things like that. So I think that's where it kind of like started. And then, of course, along the
And
way,
when was this, Avnish? Very young, like
this
7
was
days, like what, 8
yeah,
when you
yeah.
were.
So ever since, so like I said, my brother was slightly older than I was. So I was
Right, right.
exposed to
So
these things at a very young age.
very
So
young
when
age, right?
yeah, so when I was 3, he was already playing with
Then
these toys.
true, true, true.
He was watching all these cartoons and things like that. So back then we used to get these VHS cassette tapes that we could
Right.
rent.
Yes.
So so he would be renting all these cartoons and
Ah,
all of these things, like, you know, from cartoons that were from the 80s, like G.I. Joe, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
right,
and
right, right.
Spiral Zone, all of these things. So he would watch them, and I would also watch them
Obviously,
because I was
right,
just there.
along with you, right.
Yeah, so yeah, so since like maybe I was 3 or 4, I've been like we used to play, and then of course eventually, I was also fond of drawing, but it wasn't ever anything I really did seriously until I think I watched this anime called Dragon Ball Z. I think
Okay.
Dragon Ball Z was a very important piece of media for a lot of people in the early 2000s. So after that, I started, drawing characters from Dragon Ball Z and things like that, and then other pieces of media and stuff.
Right,
And
right.
that's also when I started consuming comic books more consciously,
Hmm. Hmm.
a lot of them.
Right.
So yeah, and then so until I think class 6 or 7, I would basically just like not copy but try to imitate styles,
Right,
if you know what
right.
I mean. I wasn't directly
Yes.
copying an image, but if I saw something that I liked in a comic,
You would right,
like yeah, the artist's style, I would try to imitate it and incorporate it in my this
right,
thing. But I
right.
feel like it really didn't have a direction or a purpose that early
True.
on. I did
Right.
it as a just something I enjoyed
Something like
recreationally.
that. True, true, true,
Yeah.
true.
So, but I mean, like I said, it was just I I think eventually what I realized was like I just liked consuming stories, and I think at some point it clicked that I could perhaps tell stories as well
Tell.
as a
Okay,
profession,
okay.
as a vocation.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So yeah, so I think I must have been in the 7th or 8th grade class.
By
Yeah,
then,
in middle
okay.
school sometime, yeah, where I decided this is what I want to do.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
At
so
that
I
young
mean,
age, okay.
yeah, I decided कि ये करना है, but then I was also, back then, it was like, अच्छा ये मैं करूँगा, but I should also do something else that might
Something
make me
else.
money.
Right, right.
Because in my head back then, I wasn't so aware of graphic design and
True.
basically the design industry that exists.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, so anyway, I was doing that in class 11. I shifted my boards from CBSE to ICSE. Now
Okay,
in ICSE, you can in humanities you can pick art as one of your board subjects.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's when actually I like my art
Me. Okay, okay.
where I was now trying to improve it. Whereas earlier on, it was more like I would do something. If I messed it up, I would just throw the paper away. It wouldn't matter.
Right, right, right.
So yeah, so I mean, in 11th and 12th, we like my art teacher was actually quite severe. That's putting it lightly. But but I did learn quite a lot from her. I'll say that.
Okay.
And it like I said, I learned to draw with intent during that phase,
Right,
where
right.
you're not just drawing because you want to. You're actually like you're observing, and you have intent in the lines that you draw.
Right, right, right.
They have a
True.
purpose. I'm not just scribbling, let's say that.
Right, right.
So 11th and 12th was good, and then the same teacher, who I mean I'm very grateful to, but she suggested I go to IILM, except
Okay.
I still had it in my head कि नहीं कुछ और करना है. So
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I did about so I instead I wanted to be a chef, so I joined hotel
Oh,
management for
okay.
and yeah, and I did that for
In IILM itself,
no.
or
So this
okay,
was
okay,
IHM Pusa Road.
okay, no problem. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think at the
Because it was there,
IILM,
I thought, yeah, they had.
yeah, it started like I think an year or two after I joined. I think,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
So yeah, so I first did about 8 months of hotel management,
Mm-hmm.
and I found myself to be completely miserable doing it. So then, we decided that yeah, okay, you know what, because
Let's.
I wanted to pursue art, and I thought
Hmm.
I could do it simultaneously, but that's not how that works. You know,
Right, right.
if you want to do something, you have to give it,
Right,
you have to give it your 100%. So
right,
anyway, so I
right.
switched to IILM. That's how I got that. That's the little
Oh,
like detour I had to take to realize that okay,
okay.
this is fully
What
what I
you
want
want
to
to do.
do, and I
Right.
will dedicate my time to it.
Okay, great, great.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so that's how I figured out ki acha, this is it for me.
Okay, okay,
Took a
okay.
while, but yeah, I got there.
Great, 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 great. So had that
Fair enough.
clarity, took a detour, and then came back
Yeah,
there. Great,
like
great, great.
yeah, I knew कि करना था, but like I didn't have the
Yes,
understanding कि
I
ऐसे करना
understand.
है. Yeah.
Hmm. Right, 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 right. Okay, Avnish, you have done both the design courses, undergraduate as well as master's course, right?
Yes.
So I would love to know from you that in both the processes, you started following the design process, the creative problem solving process, as we call it.
Right.
And the maturity level that we have at the undergraduate level or at the postgraduate level, there's a lot of difference. Not
Yes.
only our own maturity level, but the kind of experiences we grow and we get to learn a lot of things. So I would love to understand from you that how was your exploration of this design process? But the process is the same, right? That we follow in each and every problem that we try to solve. So how was your exploration of this particular design process at undergraduate level and at postgraduate level? What was the differences or what were the common things that you would like to share with us?
Sure. So as far as undergraduate level is concerned, when I joined IILM,
Hmm.
it was like the foundation year was kind of eye-opening for me because,
Mm-hmm.
uh, creatively speaking, I have always had a bit of a tunnel vision.
Okay.
In the sense कि I wanted to get into comic books, or
Right. Right.
so
Hmm.
I would be kind of only doing that. That was
Hmm.
my only artistic
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
outlet as such.
Right. Right.
When I got to IILM, and you meet different people, you meet and you understand कि अच्छा, there are various avenues within design.
Hmm.
You can do
Hmm.
communication
Right.
design, you can do product design, interior design.
Right.
Back
Right.
then, UI UX wasn't as big a deal, but
Right.
now,
Right.
of course, that's its own entire
Exactly.
industry.
Mm-hmm.
So so when I got there, it was very eye-opening in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
where where you're doing material exploration, you're doing all
Right.
kinds of like you're drawing in different ways. That's one.
True. Hmm.
And I think like in foundation year, what they basically do is they through various exercises they teach you how to kind of consider things in a certain way, because
Hmm. Hmm.
design is essentially problem solving.
Right. Right.
By nature, it is meant to tackle a certain problem and
Hmm.
fix it, or or do
Right.
something where you're
Right. Hmm.
elevating that problem. Anyway, um so through those exercises, like I figured out a lot of things in
Mm-hmm.
how to like uh, process ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
how to take ideas beyond what they are just ideas. How to
Right.
execute them,
Hmm.
how
True.
to test them out
Right.
in a way
Right.
where I am not putting 100% of my effort in it and then
Hmm.
realizing that this is not
Oh, it's
working.
not working. True. True. True.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't like with my field, I don't want to finish an entire page of artwork and then realize, no, this is not flowing
Oh,
correctly.
right.
I don't want to have
Right. Right.
like that's not so
True.
that was one of the things that like
Hmm.
I that actually like really helped me out in how I was
Hmm.
working.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's great.
and unfortunately, like I mean, like I said, we did a lot of like material exploration also. Like
Hmm.
I was always interested in carpentry and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but I mean, I never knew how to. I thought उसके लिए
Do
like
it.
training
Right.
करनी पड़ेगी, ये करना पड़ेगा, वो करना पड़ेगा. But
Hmm.
in when you're in foundation, they just give you a piece of wood and then they tell you कि अच्छा now
Do it.
saw it. Yeah,
Right.
and honestly, like yes, carpentry takes a lot of like craft and skill, but to
Hmm.
start it, you just need
Yeah.
that's what you need to do. You just need to
Correct.
start,
Correct. Correct.
right?
Correct.
That's with I think anything in life. With any
Hmm.
skill that you want to acquire,
Right.
just
Right. You
start
just
doing
have
it.
to start.
Eventually, you will figure it out.
Right. 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 True.
So that was one of the things, like the idea that, no skill is unacquirable.
Wow.
That's
Yes.
another thing.
Right.
You might think you need years and years of training for something.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, to get to a certain level you do, but to start you don't. All you need to do
You don't
is start
start.
doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like sure, you'll make mistakes, you'll be bad at it initially. Okay.
Right. Right.
Eventually you'll get good at it. And
Even the masters were
yeah,
initially. Right.
exactly.
Right.
Everybody starts badly, but that's no
Right.
reason to not start.
Not start. True. True. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so foundation was great.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the college went through some troubling times,
Right.
to say
Right.
the least.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
where some teachers left, and then the college, which is part of the ILM management school, like a bigger
Hmm. Hmm.
university. Now it is a
Hmm.
university.
Right.
It kind of also lost the backing of that. So there were a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
issues that were going on there.
Right. Right.
So there were a few years that were kind of like up and down,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they were still good because I mean do I got to focus on what I wanted to do
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
the pressure of having to fully focus on college assignments.
Submissions. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
because of the way things were, they were a little lax. So I
Right.
could get away
Right.
with a lot. So
True.
yeah,
True.
but that also helped in a way, like
Right.
where
Right.
I got to
Right.
do what I wanted to do, and
Hmm.
it helped me kind of like sharpen my skills, hone
Hmm.
them, and bring them
Mm-hmm.
up to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I mean, majority
Okay.
of like undergraduation was basically that. Like, you interviewed Anurag. With Anurag, I did like a bunch of like product based things. Like we designed a
Right.
table
Right.
together and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a fun time generally,
Great
and
experience.
I
Hmm.
learned a lot.
Hmm.
So I mean, that was undergraduation.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I did my master's right after immediately. Like I
Okay.
graduated in 2015, and then in the same year I joined Brighton,
Okay.
University of Brighton, which is in the UK, and
Mm-hmm.
I did my master's in a subject called uh, sequential design and illustration, which is a
Hmm.
fancy academic way of saying graphic narratives and
Yeah.
storytelling.
Hmm. Right. Right.
And yeah, and I,
Something that
I
you always wanted to
yes, it was a
learn.
specialization. I was
Right.
looking at basically specializing in illustration
Okay.
overall.
Okay.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I looked at a lot of master's degrees which were focused on illustration in general.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
This one I found accidentally
Mm-hmm.
while I was looking for illustration courses, and
Mm-hmm.
this one focused exactly on this thing that I wanted to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
worked out.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I joined masters, and I think, I mean, I got to meet a lot of people. It's the same thing, it's like it's the same this thing. You figure out ways of processing things differently. It's like an advanced version of what happened to me when I joined undergraduation. You're
Okay.
meeting people who are at a different level.
Hmm.
You're and you're experiencing things differently, and you learn to understand things differently as well
Right. Even the
along the
culture
way.
was different there.
Yeah, and
Right.
you meet and I met all kinds of people there, like from different areas of the world,
Right.
and different styles of storytelling.
Right. Right.
Different approaches to how one can tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Like people wanted to tell stories not through books or comic books or whatever, or
Okay.
but they were telling stories through museum exhibits.
True. True. Very
Like with
interesting.
yeah,
Right.
using like so we had a gentleman there who was a welder by profession.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
Joined your
he
same course. Like
yes.
you. Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Very
he
interesting.
must have been in his 40s or something. Over there, like you
Mm-hmm.
found people in like from all age
Right.
groups
Right.
doing
Right.
this
True.
thing,
True. Yes.
doing their
Yes.
master's courses. So we had
Mm-hmm.
everyone from their like mid 20s to I think there was
Late
someone who
40s.
was in their 60s.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Great.
and that
Oh,
was and that's also like that also gives you another perspective on how
definitely. Yes.
you
Yes.
yeah. So this
Like.
individual that I'm talking about, he
Mm-hmm.
basically made these metal sculptures,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave them a fictional origin. So these were basically artifacts
Hmm.
that were found and
Right.
placed in a
Hmm.
museum.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so he gave
Hmm.
these artifacts a fictional background and this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
person would understand the story when they come to the exhibit.
Museum. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and then they
Mm-hmm.
read about it, and there's a little pamphlet with like a little bit of
Wow.
background, and
Okay.
that's one way of delivering a story. I thought
Wow.
that was
Very
quite cool.
interesting.
That was
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think the biggest lesson I learned was after masters was done.
Hmm.
So briefly, what I did for my master's project was essentially there was a comic book, and
Mm-hmm.
I also did music along with it.
Ah. Okay.
So
Okay.
I wrote and like composed and wrote like 3 songs,
Mm-hmm.
recorded them myself. That's an example of like just doing. I
Hmm.
had no idea like how recording works. I'm a
Hmm.
musician, but I don't know how recording works. Like so, I
Okay.
just
Okay.
started doing it. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very good at it, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
You just
I found
start
shortcuts,
some.
I found ways around it, and I
Mm-hmm.
got it done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great.
So, yeah, so that's an example of just starting something. Just do it.
Right.
It's
Right.
fine. It
Right.
doesn't, you don't need training and things for that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you
Mm-hmm.
get better eventually.
Right.
Anyway, so,
Right.
and I did a comic book alongside it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it was quite a bit of work. And anyway, when the results came,
Mm-hmm.
compared to like how much work I had done, I didn't score as well as I had hoped,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And that was a little
Mm-hmm.
disappointing. But you know, it's that's when I I kind of went into like a bit of a this thing as to why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think what like I realized that I wasn't how do I say this? I wasn't cognizant of uh, I was too focused on what I wanted to do. Instead, I should have been cognizant of the feedback that I was given and what I can achieve in a given amount of time.
Okay. Okay.
So basically, what it meant is that I was making mistakes along the way, which I should have actually noticed and corrected, but I did not do that because I was
Okay.
so focused on the thing that I wanted to do.
Fine. Right.
And I
Right.
was being given feedback, but I wasn't responding to it appropriately.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
And that I think is kind of like what I figured out. It's basically acknowledging the mistakes that you make and you improve upon them. I
Right.
think
Right.
a lot of times we get caught up in our own like egos and like just our own general, कि अच्छा ये करना
Right.
है ये ऐसे ही करेंगे. We don't acknowledge कि अच्छा
Right.
maybe we messed up. It's fine.
Right.
Now you can improve upon it.
Correct. Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
It's
Right.
the
Right.
it's the idea that if you don't like if you acknowledge that there is a problem, then you can
True.
fix
True.
it.
True. Correct. Correct.
Right?
Very. Very well said. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if you don't acknowledge कि mistake हुई है, then you can't improve upon it, you can't fix it.
You just carry with it. Yes.
Yeah, you then it's just a mistake that happened, you are bound to repeat it.
Right. Right.
Right? So that was actually the most important thing that I actually
Learning.
picked up, which was after not doing as well as I had hoped that I would do. It's because it's that re-examination and constantly questioning yourself ki, okay, maybe I can approach this differently, maybe I can do this in a different way,
Right.
maybe
Right.
what I believed is the right way is not the best way to
Right.
approach this.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
I
Right.
need to go back a little bit, examine, acha, maybe I messed up here, and then redo something
Right. Right.
instead of spending all of that time and then realizing ki, acha,
Right.
like
Right. Wow,
it's
that's
not
that's
this
such
thing.
an honest opinion, and like honestly, you shared that with us. Thank you so much, and it's a great
That's
learning, and which is actually the foundation of any creative process, as you mentioned that, or any problem-solving process for that matter. That you just in between you keep on analyzing it and reflecting over it, whatever you are doing. Is it
yeah.
going in the right direction, or does it need some kind of a tweaking, or any alternatives? And that could be at regular intervals, right? It need
Yes.
not be
Yeah.
only in the initial stages or mid stages and then finally in the final stages.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process. That's why probably it looks quite messy and not that
Yes.
easy to grasp. Even
For
though
sure,
you
yeah.
are undergoing that training, it takes a while, and it takes not only practice but little experience also. Once you experience that, probably you start believing that, oh yes, I can, I should
Yeah.
have done it like that. Great, great, great.
I mean, even the mistakes I recognize that I did, and I'm like, अच्छा अगली बार नहीं करूँगा, I still do them
I should.
sometimes.
Yes,
It takes
yes,
a
that
while. It's saying कि अच्छा once you can learn from your mistakes, you can, but it's
right,
easier
right,
said than done. So
right. True,
it takes a while
true.
कि
Yes,
you're going
yes.
to figure it out
Correct,
immediately.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Great. So next question, Avanish, is that I would like to know that creative problem solving process, as we say, that it impacts our thought process, the way we think, and
Yeah.
then it's not only about the academic projects or whatever professional projects that we are doing, but it also gets reflected in everything that we do, in personal
Yeah.
level, in social interactions. So I would love to know from you a few experiences that you would like to share about, like how it impacted your other part of life than your professional life.
Okay. I think going back to the issue with like recognizing and acknowledging mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
around the same time, I also realized that, it's not just like this pattern, at least with me, was
Mm-hmm.
not just in my vocation,
Mm-hmm.
but it kind of overflowed into how I was operating in general, like in life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you can just take the same thing and apply it to, which is what I try to do at least, where you acknowledge the mistakes you make even in life. I think a lot of times
Right.
people people fail to do that also. Like,
Right. Right.
maybe you could have had a better interaction with a person. You could have been
Hmm.
nicer to them. Or
Right.
if you've made a mistake, acknowledge the mistake that you've made.
Right.
It's
Such a
not
difficult thing.
it's actually now
Lot of
become one
courage.
of my pet peeves when people try to justify the mistakes they make. It
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand that that's a tendency that people have, and I can
Right.
appreciate that, but it also
Mm-hmm.
sometimes bothers me when it's like, when it's obviously your mistake. It would be so much easier if you just acknowledge it.
Yes. Right.
So,
Right.
but it's the same for me. I should be, I think, I sh- when you acknowledge a mistake that you've made, it's a certain degree of honesty you need to have with yourself,
Right.
right?
Right.
So in life, if you're acknowledging the not great things you've done, or the you know people make a lot of mistakes in general. I'm
Yes.
not going to give
Yes. Right.
examples of it, but
Right. 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 Right.
it's okay to acknowledge it. And
Yes.
like I said, you
Yes.
can't fix your behavior or your patterns in life if
Hmm.
you aren't, you know
Accepting them
if you're
in the
not
first
if
place.
there's no problem, you can't fix it, right?
Right.
So
Right. 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 Right.
it's the same, like, so basically what I've picked up from, like, what happened, and the kind of, like, um how do I say this? The words, like, completely, like, gone out of my brain. Anyway, the the self-reflection that I did in 2016 when I was done with my master's project, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
generally applied it to how I was generally doing in life, and what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing in life, in my interaction with people, in
Mm-hmm.
how I acknowledge my own actions,
Mm-hmm.
and just generally, yeah, what I am doing in the world outside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
because when you're acknowledging your mistakes, you are inadvertently, you have no choice but to improve upon them.
Right. 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 Right.
So yeah, so I mean, that's one
Right.
of the most major
That's
things.
how.
Like,
Right.
yeah, so I mean, and like I said, you will repeat mistakes,
Yes. Yes.
and it's also about recognizing patterns and things like that,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
identifying, yes, I keep doing this. Why do I keep doing this? How
Hmm.
can I
Hmm.
how can I like find ways to improve this about
Hmm.
myself? And like I said, it's
Right.
not just about the work that you're doing. It's
Right.
about, like,
Yes.
general interactions that you're having with people, the things that you
Right.
do, like,
Yes. Everything. Yes. Yes.
yeah. So that's one. That's I think one
Mm-hmm.
of the more major ones that I try to incorporate in my everyday life as much as I can, where I'm
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
saying, when I'm taking a step back and going, "Acha, ye aise nahi karna tha. Maybe I could
Hmm.
have tackled this a little better." Or if I make
Right.
a
Right.
mistake, I just say, "Sorry, I made a mistake. I
Right.
I
Right.
apologize."
Yes. Yes.
That's one. And
Hmm.
I think just generally, otherwise, how I process things has changed significantly, which I think has to do with the kind of education that I had, which was
Hmm.
design based. The training
Hmm.
that I
Hmm.
had
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, changed how I processed ideas and
Mm-hmm.
how I come up with solutions for, like, everyday issues that are there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, whether it's a general, like, logistical problem,
Hmm.
or
Right.
whether it's like a like some house related issue or something or the other. It's
Right.
about,
Right.
like like you said, it's about experience, but it's
Right.
also about how you're processing that problem. It
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think those
That's
are the
how
two more important things
major.
that I have, like, kind of figured out, which I credit to the experience and education that I had.
Yes. Great. Great. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So true. Yeah. Very two important learnings from the process that we keep doing it, or we keep. I don't say, I won't say that implementing it, but realizing these mistakes or
Yeah.
that we have done and reflecting on them, it's not necessary that you need to learn this particular process to reflect on it. But as you rightly said, this became one tool which made it so easy for us to realize that this happens, and we should reflect and try and improve on how we can, like, and of course there could be so many ways on reacting or responding to that same situation, and keep trying the different ways, and you will get to know which one works better. That's another way of testing and validating probably different ways of doing it.
Right? I would also add that, like, this idea of reevaluating, I think it's very inherent in how we're taught, like, the design process, and it's in it. Right. It's there. It's part of the process. Right?
True.
Unfortunately, because oftentimes how we are taught, like, not how we are taught, but like what we are expected from, because we're expected to submit 10 assignments at the end of the semester, or 20 assignments, or whatever. Honestly, we are taught the process, but we aren't allowed to implement it. Our because we are too concerned कि product finish करना है, या जो भी है वो खत्म करना है assignment.
Right.
I can't go with it step by step, where I am doing my research, where I'm ideating about it, where I am trying it out, I'm testing it out, and seeing कि अच्छा ये if this is working or not.
Right. What I feel is many a times it happens that as a student we are not aware of using it. We're not so aware because from childhood, the kind of education system that we are into, we are always focused on how the output has to be. Yes. So that's bound to happen because students are fresh. They're all this process is completely new to them, especially because of the kind of education that we go through. And also, many a times, some of the educators, they fail to make them aware. That's what is my observation as a design educator for many years. And some of them, they try and make them realize, but then, as you said, that you were given feedback during your master's project, but then you didn't realize it. So both things actually, it happens that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. Like, I feel like and I'm not passing the buck or anything, but like, in the sense, like, in college, if we were made to more consciously apply the design process, I think we would be a lot more, like, we would be more better off with regard to taking feedback and understanding कि अच्छा ये अलग तरीके से भी किया जा सकता है, and maybe that's the preferable way, you said, we are not made aware कि we're doing that.
And right.
Like, make us do it consciously, like, make us, like, for example, in my master's, in every 3 months we were told to submit all the work that we had done. We were told, and by work I don't mean like final work, I mean the progress that we
whatever
made
deliverables
on the so like, even if it's rough sketches and things like that, you submit those, anything and everything. And on top of that, we were expected to write papers both on the work that we had done so far and the research that we had done so far. So the writing of the papers, what it does is that now you have like 1,000 words, right? You have no choice but to think about the work that you've done, the research that you've done, because you have to articulate it and tell your teachers कि अच्छा मैंने ये काम किया. Right. We unfortunately don't do that in the system that we have right now. If we implement something like that, where students are made to consciously observe their progress and evaluate it so that they can convey it to their teachers, because my evaluation in the master's program wasn't wasn't based on just the final product, of course, but
Right,
it was
right.
also like based on
The whole
how well I am able to convey and reflect on the work I had done so far.
through, right, the whole process, how it has
Yeah.
been. Right,
So
right.
instead, when you end up in a semester-wise system, where the only thing almost that counts is what you've submitted on the
In the
deadline,
fine day, right,
yeah,
right, right.
then
That's
sometimes you're just working for the sake of working,
for,
not
right,
to
right, right.
understand or learn something from it.
Yes, yes,
You know?
yes. This is very important issue, I feel, especially for the undergraduate programs. Like
Yes.
when students are not aware of all these things, it's responsibility of educators to make them aware through, as you said, through the exercises or through interaction as well, like
Yeah.
what they're doing. I try and follow doing these things, and many a times I get this feedback at the end of the project, like the way students express that what were their learnings in the whole it's mostly whatever three months module or 4 months module that they go through. They are surprised seeing what they have delivered, and like they said that we didn't believe that we could do something like this, but
Yeah.
the way we had been taken through the process, step by step things, and so we ourselves are surprised to see that is this
Yeah.
something that we can actually do. So that's an interesting thought. I believe that, as you pointed it out rightly, that being aware about what we are doing and reflecting on it is such an important part of not only design process or any creative process, but life itself, as you
Yes. Yeah.
mentioned. Yes, great, great. So my next question was, actually, you talked a bit about it early, but if you would like to share some few more things, is like,
Sure.
as we mentioned that, or as I keep telling, that the education system is such that, as a child, we are trained to think that there is only one perfect answer for the question that we have, and if we write it in that way, then only we'll get the grades. Otherwise, it's difficult. So with this kind of thinking, it's very difficult to keep that creative, explorative mind of yours. As a child, you keep doing it, but I have observed that as you especially go to grade 8 onwards, you stop exploring other things. Somehow it just happens when you are in that system. But as you perceived art or pursued art as your in 11th and 12th, and in the next undergraduation and post-graduation, what was it that helped you to keep that creativity alive throughout your childhood? As I mentioned, you already talked about, your exposure to the cartoons and, things like that, and storytelling, basically. Apart from that, you would like to talk something about it, and we would just love to listen to that.
So honestly, as a child, I used to fall ill a lot, like quite frequently. Yeah.
Okay.
And what would happen is that I wouldn't be attending school, like I would, like, because I was unwell. And honestly, I was never interested in what was going on in school. So yeah, so I was never a very, like, I think after class 4, I don't think, like, I have ever scored very highly. I was adequate.
Okay. Whatever is required.
Yeah, it wasn't ever my, like, yeah, school never piqued my interest. And honestly, what kept my like my I guess desire to pursue storytelling or comic books or any of that was basically I consumed a lot of media during my school years. I watched, like I said, cartoons. I read a lot of comics. I watched, there was a point where I would watch a movie every day. I would get back home from school and I would just watch a film in the afternoon. Good, bad, it didn't matter. I would just watch it. So, and that's why I didn't do so well in school, because I was spending so much time doing.
interesting to know your parents' reaction to this, with this, because it's very difficult for parents to digest something like this.
I am very lucky in that sense because
Mm-hmm.
my mother's an artist, like
Oh,
professionally. She has a doctorate in both music and Kathak.
oh wow,
Yeah,
great.
and she's been teaching, she's been performing all her life.
Oh, great,
So,
great, great.
so
So,
she's an
yes.
artist. My dad is also, he's a musician too. And but like not professionally, but he plays
Ah,
many instruments.
oh, great, great, great,
And
great.
he comes from a family of like artists and musicians.
Ah,
Same with my
okay,
mother.
okay.
So my so even when I wanted to join hotel management, my parents were like, "Don't do that."
Oh.
Yeah,
You,
like that's. I mean, they acquiesced because that's what I wanted to do. But
right.
they were right in the sense they were
Hmm.
like, "Acha, I think you should do graphic design or something related to the art
Related to
that you
business.
want to do." Yeah.
Right, 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 right.
I was the one who was an obstinate idiot, and I was like, "नहीं नहीं मैं chef बनूंगा,"
Let me.
which which didn't work out, and like you know, but yeah. So my parents were all they ever wanted was that do adequately, pass ho ja bas.
Okay.
That's what we want from you.
Okay.
So in
Okay.
that sense, like my parents have been extremely supportive of
Hmm.
everything that I
Hmm.
wanted to pursue. And I've
Okay.
seen like in that sense, I am very lucky because a lot of
Yes.
times parents aren't as understanding and
Support. Right.
accommodating
Right. Right.
to
Right.
their child's requirements. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. 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 Yes.
To
Because of a lot of
actually
factors, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean
Maybe
I'm not
they're
blaming
just
them.
intending. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. But that's
they
a
want the
situation
best
and
for
that's a
their
fact.
child.
True.
Yeah.
True. 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 And that's their
So
perception of what could be the best for
yeah.
their child, and that's how they work in that frame of reference.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's in no
Okay.
way to like they are doing their best. Everybody
Is
is
trying to.
trying their best.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah,
Great. 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 So okay. So having those kind of artist parents actually help you to keep your whatever explorations that you wanted to have in especially like in the storytelling, that has been something that you always loved, right?
yeah,
So there were different ways that you were absorbing it during your childhood, which probably helped you to get that
yeah,
clarity that you wanted to do this even after taking that detour. It had that's what helped you to take the right decision again,
yeah. Like
right?
a lot of times I think like the ILM course, sorry, ILM I'm saying the IHM course, the hotel management course was
Mm-hmm.
just 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So at one point, I even though I was completely miserable, I was like,
Hmm.
3 साल का कोर्स है कर लेते हैं.
कर लेते हैं.
And that happens, I feel like to a lot of people also कि
Right, right.
ये
And
कर
then
लेते
you
हैं
get,
and
हाँ, अब कर ही लिया है तो आगे भी pursue कर ही लेते हैं, right? It happens, it
yeah,
happens. So,
it's
so
I
it
mean
it takes
yeah it
a
sorry
lot of
it
courage.
wouldn't have been yeah it honestly like I wouldn't have been able to take that step without my parents had they not
Hmm.
supported me,
Right,
you know.
right, right, right.
So yeah, otherwise I might have even been like, "Acha, I mean, let's just do it. Now I'm
Yes,
here,
right,
and yeah,
right.
so might as well finish it."
Right,
So
right, right. So yes, yes, parent support is such a important thing for a
yeah,
child, to be at any point of a time. It's not just at the childhood, but even after that. Yeah, if you
yeah,
get it,
I agree.
nothing like it. Yes, 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 yes. Great. So now that we've talking so much about childhood and children and parents, I would like to I would like to know your opinions on. Recently I've been working on taking these workshops about creative problem solving for young children, especially high
Right.
school children, where I feel that if they are introduced to this process as early in their lives, they'll be able to, as we've been talking about, reflecting on things, or learning from failures and learning to start anything. Like if you want to do something,
Yeah.
you first need to start, keep on experimenting in it, and also having an opportunity to think about multiple solutions. That's how, like in any creative process, that's a part of it. So I feel that it's very essential to take this process to young children at young age. What are your opinions about this whole idea of taking creative problem solving to young children? As a designer, as a creative person, we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, I wholly agree. I feel like uh, I feel like as far as like not just with my art or
Mm-hmm.
other creative avenues,
Mm-hmm.
in general, I feel like I was a timid child. Not
Okay.
because I
Okay.
wasn't smart or not because whatever. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that like I wasn't the setting that I was in wasn't optimal for me. Sorry,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's very academic heavy, this
Hmm.
thing. So,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
wasn't, but like I said, I wasn't doing like exceptionally well or anything. So, so generally, I wasn't really beyond what I was doing. I wasn't really looking outward,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know, and taking in and processing things the way that I do now,
Right. Right.
right? And I feel like, especially for kids who might be like me, who are slightly timid and who aren't like,
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
outspoken or as outgoing and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
this process would help them, and it'll open them up to ideas and avenues
Right.
that they perhaps
Right.
haven't thought of,
Right. Right. So true. So true.
you know
One more thing. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, can I add? You wanted to say something?
no, 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 I was
Yeah.
done. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
That people associate creativity only with art or art related or craft
Yeah,
related things. So when it comes, they just parents themselves, they label their children that they're not creative just because they're not able to come up with that finished output in whatever art
yeah,
that they are doing. And that suppresses them. It need not be like the creativity need not be expressed only through art, any kind of art for that matter. Like if a child loves gardening, he can express his creativity in that activity. I mean, what's the point? But so, especially through projects like this, I feel, as you mentioned, that not everyone is very good at academics, as you said, or in the creative art fields as well. But
yeah,
that shouldn't stop them from exploring their own interests and reflecting on them. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, as an example, my
Mm-hmm.
father works in the logistics field.
Okay.
So, I mean, I have observed him enough where I see him finding creative solutions to the problems he faces in his
Mm-hmm.
in his
Right.
field
In
of
his
work,
area. True. True. True.
right?
True.
So
Yes.
it's like you said, it's not just about making art or this thing. It like after years of experience and how he's understood like how the business works and things like that, he's
Right.
able to
Right.
now think of 10 solutions to one problem,
True. True.
you know,
True. Yes.
which have
Yes.
nothing to
Yes.
do with art. It's
Yes.
just it's just
Yes.
like identifying the problem and then solving it,
Right. Right. Right.
right?
Right. So true.
And
Yes. Yes.
if you don't mind my asking, what kind of things do you do in the workshop? Like what kind of things are
Yes,
covered?
yes, yes, yes. So it's actually, I have started it with very young children. So I started with very simple problem.
Right.
So I'll just share one example where we were working on how they can improve their eating habits. So at that, so I did with this grade 5 children, and they all learn that in textbooks that what it has to be a balanced diet, and your eating habits, what kind of eating habits you should follow, or how much water is important for you and how much
Right.
water you should be consuming daily. But then it remains in the textbook. It very few of it is actually getting uh, applied in your life. So I made
Yeah.
them observe their daily eating habits and then come up with few problems that they identify, or few areas where they can make their, if they make those changes, they can become more healthier in terms of whatever they're eating or their eating
Yeah.
habits. And then they came up with so many different problems, like they're not consuming enough water, or they're not they're getting distracted while eating because they're
Yeah.
watching something or they're reading something, and then they don't know, they don't keep track of how much they've eaten. Then they start feeling hungry, or they're overeating because they're not into it, or
Right.
one person, one boy, he just said that sometimes, it happens that my mom cooks my favorite food, and then I just can't stop myself, and I eat very large bites of it, and
That's
makes
funny.
me choke. So very interesting problems they identified, and then
Yeah.
a girl came up with very beautiful solutions for the problem that she identified as she is not able to drink enough water. Okay,
Right.
so she said that she can have a reminder on her screen. So when the online school is going on, it will just pop up and it will remind her. Or she and her sibling, they both can play a game where they are reminding. Through that game, they are reminding each other to drink water. And then
Yes.
finally, what she implemented was, she tested in fact, was that she made a very long straw with whatever colorful straws were available at her place. She joined them and made a long straw and kept the water bottle intentionally away from her table, and from there she was drinking it. So she just added a lot of interest in the activity of drinking water,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then she tested it for a week, and she said that she is now consuming enough water just because that activity is so interesting. So this is how, they are coming up. So these are kind of small
It's
problems that I
yeah.
initiate with them, and they learn the whole process through that. And
Okay.
they
Yeah.
want then they become aware about reflecting on things and coming up with different solutions and applying it, testing it, validating it, and they're willing to apply it in other problems that they face.
Right. That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. Great, great, Avnish. It's been a pleasure listening to you and your thoughts about your creative
Thank you.
journey. And I'm sure that listeners, they got to listen to so many different thoughts, which were different for them, definitely.
Yeah.
And they have picked up whatever takeaways that they had for themselves. In the end, Avnish, if you would have any message for the viewers that you would like to share, we can end the show with that.
Oh, I wouldn't know what
Yes.
to say to that.
Yes, anime.
Uh, I honestly I don't know.
Okay, no.
I don't have a message for them. I'm
Okay,
just yeah.
okay. No, no issues, no issues. You already had so many of them, like through your conversations, like there were so many of the messages that they can take, though you don't want any direct teaching to them, no problem.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
you have
I don't want
something
to,
you
yeah, I don't want to give them like unnecessary gyan. If whatever they can
okay.
take from this,
Take
that's great.
that's yeah,
Yeah.
great, Avnish. Thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you
taking
very
out
much, ma'am.
time from
No,
yes,
no,
yes,
no
yes, we
worries. My
loved.
pleasure.
Yes, thank you, and
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
best
Thank
wishes
you.
to yes,
Same
thank
to you, ma'am.
you,
Thank you.
bye.